All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are talking about a book you have probably seen everywhere online, the massive new romantasy release, We Who Will Die. I mean, this thing has just exploded. But the big question is, right, does the story on the inside actually live up to that gorgeous, glossy cover? Well, we're going to break down a really sharp review from Book Access to figure out if the hype is real. Let's do it.
So, the review kicks off with this line, and you just gotta love it. Think about that for a second. This is a book that's packed with, gods and gladiator fights and vampire emperors, and somehow the craziest, most unbelievable thing is the pacing of the romance. That one line tells you everything you need to know about the vibe of this review. It's smart, it's funny, and it just sets the stage perfectly.
Okay, so first things first. Before we even crack open the plot, we have to talk about the hype machine behind this thing. I mean, how did We Who Will Die become such an overnight BookTok darling? Well, according to this review, it was no accident. It was basically built from the ground up to be exactly that.
And this really gets at a super modern publishing playbook, right? We're talking about those absolutely gorgeous deluxe editions. You know the ones, with the stenciled edges, the fancy end papers. Every little detail is made to look incredible on your social media feed. It's not just about launching a book anymore. It's about creating a whole event, something you just have to be a part of.
And look, the numbers here absolutely back up the hype. We're talking more than 900 reviews on Goodreads before the book was even officially released to the public. That's wild. Plus, they hit every angle: the fancy hardcover, the ebook, even a duet audiobook. And on top of all that, the author is already a huge bestseller. So yeah, this wasn't some quiet word-of-mouth success. This was a full-on, highly targeted campaign from the get-go.
And this number, 4.5 out of 5, is so important. For early readers, that is an incredibly high score. And what it does, right, is it creates this kind of echo chamber of praise. Before you or I can even get our hands on it, the book already feels like this massive, can't-miss hit. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question. The packaging is a 10 out of 10, the hype is absolutely deafening, but what about the actual story between the covers? Well, according to the Book Access review, this is where things start to get, well, a little more complicated. So let's talk about the plot. The review's main argument is that the story feels less like something brand new and more like a remix playlist. I kind of love that description. It's like all your favorite hits from the romance-tasy genre, mixed together really well, but in the end, you're not really hearing a new song. And when you actually lay out the plot points like this, the formula becomes, well, pretty obvious. Let's see. Girl from the slums vows to kill an emperor. Check. She enters a deadly tournament to get close to him. Check. She has to survive all these brutal trials and betrayals. Yep. Oh, and then she meets her broody ex from back in the day. Of course. Uncovers a conspiracy with gods and secret powers? You bet. And it all ends on a huge cliffhanger to set up book 2. I mean, if you've been reading romantasty lately, this is going to sound very, very familiar.
And this quote from the review just perfectly sums up that feeling. On paper, all the elements for a super tense, exciting story are right there. But because we've seen these beats so many times before, it just gives you this weird sense of déjà vu. It's like you can see that it's well done, but you can't escape that nagging feeling that you've already seen this movie.
And apparently, that feeling of I've been here before isn't just about the plot. The review argues it applies to the characters and the world too. They call it déjà vu dynamics.
So if we take a look at the main cast, you can pretty much slot them right into their trope categories. You've got Arvel, the classic fierce protector main character. Then there's Primus, the broody ex who's all armored up. Rorik is your morally gray chaos prince. And of course, the Emperor is the big bad guy. Now, these are archetypes that readers absolutely love for sure. The real question is, do they do anything new with them?
Let's start with our main character, Arvel. She's tough, she's loyal, she's prickly. She would literally burn the world down for her siblings. And that's great. She's a very competent heroine, and it's easy to get behind her. But her voice, her motivations, they fit so perfectly into the standard romantasy heroine box. She gets the job done, but she's not really breaking any new ground. And then there's our main love interest, the Primus. The review makes a pretty funny point here.
that he feels like he was scientifically engineered in a lab specifically for BookTok. He ticks all the boxes, right? He's armored, he's full of regret, he's protectively violent, he definitely delivers on all the angst and tension that fans are looking for, but it feels less like a real complex character and more like a checklist of popular kinks.
Even the world building gets a similar critique. I mean, listen, a Roman-inspired empire run by vampires? That sounds amazing. But the review argues that the execution is pretty shallow. It's more about the aesthetic, the vibes, than about building a really deep, fleshed-out civilization. You get the cool visuals, but not the rich culture or politics that would make it feel real.
All right, so this brings us to the core of the argument. How does this book actually hold up when you put it side by side with the giants of the genre that it's so clearly pulling from? Well, Book Access went ahead and did exactly that.
And this chart really lays it all out. So you compare it to The Hunger Games. It has that same poor district versus a brutal public spectacle thing going on, but the political world building is way thinner. Okay, what about Fourth Wing? Well, it's got the deadly trials and the massive hype for sure, but the writing isn't as unique, and the tropes feel a lot more like a copy-paste job. It just makes a really strong case that even though the book works on its own, it just isn't bringing anything new to the table.
And yeah, this quote pretty much says it all, doesn't it? More trend-chasing than trailblazing. It's not trying to carve a new path, it's just very, very good at following the one that's already been paved by other bestsellers.
So, after all of that, what's the final verdict? Should you read this book or not? Well, the cool thing about this review is that it's not just trying to tear the book down, it actually tries to give you a balanced takeaway so you can decide for yourself.
And they coin a phrase that I think is just brilliant: high-functioning popcorn. And it's important to note, this isn't meant as an insult at all. It's describing something that's super entertaining, totally competent, and gives you exactly the kind of fun you were looking for. It's like literary comfort food, you know? It's not a 5-star meal, but it hits the spot perfectly.
So this really boils it all down for you. Look, if you are in the mood for vampires, gladiator battles, and some good old slow burn angst, and you genuinely don't mind reading familiar tropes, then you're probably going to have a fantastic time with this book. But if you're feeling a little burned out on the formula, and you're really hungry for something with deep world building and truly surprising twists, then yeah, you might want to pass on this one. The verdict is pretty clear. It's a solidly good book, just maybe not as special as all the hype would have you believe.
And that leaves us with one last big question. And this one is really for you to think about. Is this idea of high-functioning popcorn something you're excited about, or is it a disappointment? I mean, in a world where there's so much to read and watch, is it a comforting thing to have something reliable and fun you can count on? Or does it feel a little bit like we're stuck in a creative rut, just recycling the same ideas over and over? There's definitely no right answer here, but it's something worth chewing on the next time you see another one of these massively hyped books pop up on your feed.